We're now on the island of Iona, and we can't really talk about Iona, this tiny island off the west coast of Scotland, without introducing straight away Columba, the Irish saint, because the two were married together because he was central to the history of the island. Going back to 536 AD, when St Columba arrived on Iona's shores, we discovered he was a self-imposed exile from Ireland. This was due to a dispute with St Finian, his abbot, over the copying of the Book of Psalms, resulting in much bloodshed and a great loss of life. Columba pledged then to gain that many souls for the kingdom of God. So began his exile to a place from where he could no longer see his beloved island. His name Columba means dove of the church. Maybe this severe measure of exile contributed to his transformation. Being an educated man of royal descent, he quickly established a monastery on Iona, in keeping with his own monastic background and nurturing in Ireland. Iona became the spiritual capital of the north and a great centre of learning, not only for the monks themselves, but for people from all stations of life that were taught here. King Oswald, who comes later in our Celtic journey, lived and trained here, as did St Aidan of Lindisfarne. Columba's mission was to the Picts, a strong tribal peoples, and met with great success, which was in part due to strength of character of St Columba and his encounters with kings and ordinary folk alike. In his life we see the political influence of the Celtic Church on the state, especially in Scotland, and although the Celts would counsel leaders of the state, like the early desert fathers and mothers, they always maintained their independence from the state. St Columba founded several monasteries, the most famous being Kells, Durrow and Derry, best known for their beautiful writings produced within their scriptoriums. This practice continued on Iona, even by St Columba himself, up until his death in 597 AD, this being a constant reminder of the reason for his exile. The Johannine practice for the date of Easter by the Celtic Church was closely adhered to by the monks on Iona, and brought about a loosening of ties with Northumbria when they adopted the Roman system after the Synod of Whitby in 664 AD. After the fall of the Roman Empire, it was St Columba who was credited as being a key figure in the revitalization of monasticism and the revival of Christianity in the West. Before we leave Iona, I'd like to share with you a forceful memory that I've carried down the years. A group of women and myself went on retreat up onto Iona, and as is normal practice, we walked round the island to try and walk in the steps of the early Celtic saints. We came upon some white sands, and as I walked upon them, just had an overwhelming sense of walking into what felt like a graveyard with dead bodies everywhere. I couldn't understand this properly, and it was only later that I discovered that this is where the early Celtic monks had been slaughtered by the visiting Vikings who they'd gone out to welcome. That night in our worship time, a few of us decided to dance the dance Here I Stand, and that was also by a band called Iona. And that evening, that took on a totally different meaning for all of us. It was no longer just a story, it was a real event.